Hello. Hello. Gosh, sorry about the late. I had a bit of a video malfunction and it all just went a bit horribly wrong. So I'm just trying to get the chat going. Yeah, 1, 2. Hopefully this is all happening. Seems to be. Right. It's a good start. Getting there. All a bit last minute. I don't know what's happened to the chat. I've got to try and fix that. Right. Instances. Got to reboot that for some reason. No, don't want to launch. I want to read. This is where you get to. So I got to reboot the chat. Sorry about that, folks. Trying to get there quick, but it's everything was last minute. Basically, the whole shooting match went down. One of my video cards has decided to play silly things. So hence everything being a little bit last minute. So sorry about that. So what I'm trying to do is just set up the Facebook stream. Add video. No, not add video. Video library. This is all a bit real time. Usually I have all this sort of thing sorted out before I come along, but today I don't because we had a last minute hardware malfunction. So I had a title. 551 live. Yep, that's good. Live stream. There. I'm just waiting for the IRC to come online. We haven't got that for some reason. Sorry about that. Okay, we're getting there. It's going to be a little bit. I think this is going to be quite thrilling from a adrenaline point of view. I'm not sure how it's going to be for everybody else, but that's the way it goes. Sometimes we forget that the complexities of the technical stuff that we're dealing with, and sometimes they bite you, and you don't prepare. You don't get. There. Varga, how's the Medusa review? I'm still working on the Medusa review. It's taking a bit longer to get into it, if I'm honest, and I had a bit of time away, so I've had to just slow it down a bit. Right, so we've got that going on. Just got to check. So we've got that, so I can go live there. That's all good. Right. Lordy. What else have I got to get ready? Have I got... Yeah. I don't know what that is. What is that? Oh, yeah, I know what that is. I don't know what that is. Right, so that's a good start. So I'm just really making sure that everything is running because I've literally haven't had a chance to test it all because usually that's done before this happens. Oops, that was me. That was me testing another connection. That's Dave Spears and Chris. I haven't got his third in, but I've got there. So I think we've got Gaz today. That's what I'm hoping. So, right, what else do I have to do? Yes, I'm waiting for the IRC to come back up. That's what we're waiting for. And I probably need to get the IRC. Yeah, hold on. To actually be on the... so I can get the chat in as well. Working on that. Excuse me. So local desktop capture, hex chat. There we go. Now logging in. I don't know if the server's rebooted yet. Sorry about that. Gaz looks a lot like Nick. I know. I see what you mean. Yeah. Right. So just waiting for... Did I reboot that? Has it actually come... So do I think the profit review profit X was good enough to keep hold. No, I would not spend £4,000 on it. I mean, it's a good instrument, but I would not spend £4,000 on it. There are many other things that I would probably want to spend. Hey, Jason Mastrandrea, nice to see you. Jason, of course, did some of the T-shirt designs. Well, most of the T-shirts designed for us. In case you haven't got one, you can always pick those up. Links on the site. Right, sorry about this. Right, so I'm just waiting for, still waiting for the server to come back up, the chat server. That's not happening, is it? I wonder if I need to reboot it again. That is a little bit let me just reboot it again because it's reboot. Maybe I didn't reboot it. I've been in a bit of a whirlwind, so let's try that again. So, yeah, we'll just have to see. Okay, getting there. For those watching the live stream, I'm just trying to reboot the chat room. We've had a bit of a last-minute technical issue, which meant everything got compressed into the last few minutes, and we're still not quite there. But we've got 4 minutes to go, so we might actually make the target. So, just keeping an eye on that. So, what I need to do is look for, just waiting for the chat room to come back up. Let's see. Connect. Window. Not there yet. Okay. I think it's going to take a little bit longer than 10 seconds. I got a new competition this week. Let's see. Can we make that a bit bigger without... Yeah, there we go. New competition this week. RX-7 up for grabs. Nice. I know Dave Spears has had a lot to do with that, so or not a lot. Used it a lot. I don't know if he's got a lot to do with it at all. I think that's probably okay. So we're nearly there, right? So we got Gaz. Hello, Gaz. I'm not hearing you. Hello. Not getting any audio in from you, and your video is very choppy. It's like 1 frame a second or something. Image quality is good, but it's not so good. There's just not getting any audio from you, and your videos, maybe you're rebooting that. You fellas, I can't hear you, but I can see you. You're dwarfed by your largesse of instruments there. So, we're getting there. What was I doing? I was just showing you that we've got a new competition this week. So, connect. Let's see if we've got the live chat now. Yes. Okay. So we've got the, yes, there we go. We've got the chat. We've got the YouTube chat. So I think we're good. We're good to go. I think what I'm going to do is, well, I launched that. Why the hell not? Let's go for it. Twitter, ILC on. There we go. Let's see if we can get, put Facebook on, and then we'll just open up another browser window for our soch. 192. There we go. That'll do us. Put that over there on that window and open it up. Hey, right. So we're getting there. Have we got Gaz yet? Gaz, hello. No. Yeah, I'm definitely getting audio from my computer, so it's just not coming in to your system, Gaz, by the looks of it. Can you hear me? But your video, your literally looks like your computer is clogged up because your frame rate is extremely slow. So it's not me, because I can see Dave and Chris who are moving nice and fast, whereas you're just kind of like about 1 frame a second, I would say. So it might have to be a reboot. I don't know if can you reboot? I can't tell whether you're making any gestures because the frame rate's so slow. That's just the way it goes. Gosh. Okay.
You still got us?
I have. You're still there.
Good.
We're nearly there. I'm glad it's not just me. It's just a bad tech day for lots of people. Well, for me, I don't know what happened. It's really weird. One of my video cards just stopped seeing an input, and that was the input that carries my mic into the system as well. So it was a bit of a. I was going, oh, I got my image, but I couldn't get my. So I need to redesign that a little bit.
Ouch.
But that's all right. We can make it. Still not got Gaz just yet, so he's paused in a sort of in a slightly. Sorry, Chris, I haven't got a lower third for both of you. I feel a bit replete. I don't get. Okay.
Hey, honestly, over it. Last week.
Right. Okay. It's so last week. So last lower third. Right. So we're just waiting for Gaz. Oh, I'm coming out of somebody's audio.
It'll be us.
But you got headphones on.
Yeah, I just put the desk gain up on the synth. Hang on, I'm just going to try something. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Ah, what about that?
I can't hear that. I can hear no synth. Oh, there's something there. Yeah. There's something going on there.
Cool.
We'd be getting
Excellent.
that from that.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and if I've knocked those out, then
Nothing like a bit of complex audio routing in the afternoon. Actually, I have to confess, I went to a music quiz last night, and I thought I got away with it, but I've just been feeling worse and worse all day, and now I'm feeling really crummy, quite frankly. But we won.
hey,
Mostly thanks to my 14-year-old daughter, who managed to get all this century's answers.
that's
And
what
we
we
did,
need.
and we did last century's answers. So together, we made a great team.
Bloody brilliant.
Right. Okay, let's
I wouldn't know
scroll
anything
down.
this century.
Yeah, I know. We're just waiting for Gaz. He probably can't email or anything because because he will be rebooting his machine. So we could pause on his lovely frozen frame there. It's weird because
It's
the
normally me.
quality of his video is fine. It's just the frame rate was terrible. Usually, if there's a bandwidth issue,
Oh, he's still
yeah,
Catching up.
slow mo. Come on, Gaz. You can do it.
I'm not
Come on,
hearing you,
broadband.
Gaz. Are you making a noise? No. Huh. Let me just check. I've got everything set up. Yeah. I mean, there's just nothing coming in. Have you set? There's no audio coming in from you whatsoever. iPad. Might be worth a try. There we go, folks. That's the excitement of live TV. It's funny that, isn't it? But I wonder what happens. I mean, there must be instant that the worst thing that happens. I mean, I've seen it happen. You get events going on, and the BBC or the ITV or any of those lot, they just switch to some kind of like random. First of all, they switch to a kind of "we're terribly sorry, there's a problem." Then somebody finally gets around to finding the emergency broadcast folder that has some kind of, what would it be? Like the clangers or something like that, or some really inoffensive and uninteresting documentary about road markings from the 1950s or something, so that they know that they don't have to worry about watershed or something. We haven't got that, so you're watching it live and direct happening as it happens. So I'm afraid I can't I can't do anything more than that, but we're working on it. But it's nice to know that it's not just me. I had a bad day at Tech Day. Gaz's image, it looks great, but his frame rate is just super slow. So the bandwidth is getting out there. I think it must be the computer end. I don't know whether he's got the opportunity. Can you hear me, Gaz? I can't. No, I didn't. Stick your thumbs up if you could hear me. I'd say no. I'd say that's a no then. So yeah, I can't say that that I've got an answer. I'd say a definitive non-answer, whatever that means. Anyway, well, perhaps we'll just sort of say hello to Dave and Chris. How are you, Dave and Chris? Are you all right?
I think we're all right. Yeah, no, we're all right. We've got a productive,
thank you.
Productive
You look fine.
days. Good, thank you.
Right, I'm
Got
wonder
nothing
if we
to
should.
contribute.
Well, that's okay. Neither have I, and neither's Gaz because he's mute. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure quite what's going to happen today's show, but hopefully it won't be too uninteresting for everybody.
Oh, hang on. He's moving.
Is that working?
Yes.
Yay!
That's working. Sum it up with your computer, I'd say.
That's the iPad. I don't. What
Yeah.
on earth's wrong? Nothing different from last week. Sorry about that.
That's all right. No problem. Right.
This is yeah.
iPad. Okay, so it might be a little bit audio. Right. As a bunch of audio professionals, we're going to have to make some compromises today. But that's all right. But your video's working, so yeah. Okay, good.
Okay.
Shall we do a
sorry about
show? That's all right. Let's go. Let me just get myself prepped up. I've now calmed down from my exciting moment of everything breaking this end. So let's go.
Sonic Talk.
Hello, everybody. Just about. Welcome to Sonic Talk, episode 551, recording today live, Wednesday, the 26th of September. It's one of those tech gremlin days today. There I was, just getting ready for the show, plugged the camera in, switched it on, nothing. Oh dear, what's going on? Some sort of problem, and then it all escalated. So this show has been prepared in under 15 minutes, which actually is pretty good going for me, because I normally start about 2 o'clock, just sort of leisurely getting into it, writing my notes and stuff, but I was hijacked by technical issues, and it seems I'm not the only one, so that's one of those days. In case you're wondering what kind of technical issues, they are music technology issues, because this is a music technology podcast. So we cover things like synthesizers, software, music services, live production, studio production, and any number of surrounding topics and all of that sort of thing. So I want to say hello and welcome. Also, I want to say hello to everybody in the IRC chat room. There's everybody IRC chat, which is sonicstate.com/live. You can go on IRC. And also, we've got our YouTube chatties there as well, because we've got a sort of split. It's split between them. And I want to also say thank you very much to Isotope, who are providing a new prize, which is the prize of RX7, which, as we know, is pretty awesome. I know Dave's been using it a lot because he has to, because he cleans up tapes and does all sorts of things in his day job. But we'll, I suppose, speaking of Dave, I should probably say hello to Dave, introduce the first of our guests. So we have actually, it's a Dave and Chris week. We have Mr. Chris McLeod and Mr. Dave Spears from GeForce Software, where they're hunkered down in the synth bunker. It's not quite a bunker.
Yes.
You've got light. How are you, chaps? Are you well?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very well, thanks, Nick.
busy.
Yeah.
Busy.
Yeah. Are you busy? I mean, it must take more than a few minutes each day just dusting that lot, I'd imagine.
We've got covers on pretty much everything, but it's been used pretty much every day for the last couple of weeks. And sometimes it's like, oh, do you know what? I can't be asked to put the cover on, particularly this big desk. So that needs a bit of dust.
Spiders.
But hey, first world problems. Yeah, we do get spiders in there. Big spiders.
Field spiders. Now, I wonder what happens when you're reaching for the, or if you're using a large format modular like you've got behind you. There's actually, spiders are unlikely to nest in a 3.5mm jack hoe, but they might well go in for a 1/4 inch. So you'd be seeing the telltale signs of those little spiders, the legs that sort of stick out like funnel webs that come out just the edge of things, and then they leap out at you. I just want you to hold that thought. Which synthesizer would a spider be? Oh dear, what's that? Is that a spider? No.
That's a spider killer.
A jack. That's a jack plug. Right. Oh, that's a good idea. I wonder if there's such a thing. I wonder if that spider holes. Oh yeah. I got a friend who made a film called Spider Hole, actually. Anyway, yeah, carry on. What have you been up to?
Synth spiders. They love it in the Octagon, actually, because that's just like a vast cavern of space. And there's a couple of times where I appeared in there and thought, oh, geez.
Airbox.
But yeah, you kind of have to hoover under everything, around everything, because the keyboard stands just make this kind of perfect frame to build their webs. There was a few days where we weren't in here and I came in. In fact, there was a week where we weren't in here and I came in and it was just like, oh my God. But yeah, no, been really busy. Did the Volume 4 Tron Sounds.
Yeah.
What did we do a couple of weeks ago? That was good. And that was brilliant. In fact, that RX-7, amazing. Honestly, I think every 6 months on Facebook, I have to go on and put a post on going, it's just amazing. RX in any carnation is amazing, but RX-7, quite stunning. There's a few.
Well, it's fortunate you should say that, because we actually had the opportunity to mention that a little bit later on, and people can win a prize. How fortuitous! That wasn't at all rehearsed. I should mention. Well,
no,
anyway,
everybody should pile in on that.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I do hope they do. And also we have Mr. Gaz Williams, who's there in Bristol, where he's had to switch to his iPad because he had technical issues today. His main computer was just running super slow. How are you, Gaz?
Yeah, I'm puzzled about that. Sorry about the audio quality as well. So it's just coming from the
Well,
iPad.
that's the way it goes. Well, we just have to do it that way.
Could do real-time filters, though.
Yay!
Hey, nice one. Real-time filters, nothing like a bit of that. So, well, anyway, let's get on to a bit of news and topicery, shall we? I've got this one, which I might have to just fast forward. This is the news of, this is the new sample robot. I'm not sure how new it is, but Sample Robot 6 Pro, which I'm imagining, if I've got a video here somewhere, which I might try and play, but there's probably a bit of, I get a bit further forward.
You're creating your own sample sets, and very easily.
This was
for
shot
example,
at
I recorded
Superbooth?
some
Yes, I think it was.
and some loops for a film music project of mine, and this was all done with Sample Robot. Different loops, different rhythms.
I probably have to play quite a lot of that video to explain what Sample Robot is, but Sample Robot at its most basic is a kind of MIDI trigger automation system and sampling, so it'll interface with your any audio hardware. I'm guessing it might interface with other stuff like virtual inputs as well. I don't know that for sure because there's not much information, but what it does is allow you to create key groups. It's got auto looping, auto transient detecting, so you can literally gonna go up 88 keys on a sound at different velocity layers, all scripted, record all of that, loop it, fade it in and fade it out, and then export it in kind of a myriad of sample types, sample instrument types, which then obviously it doesn't do the filtering stuff. But I think the reason we saw that was it was at the Yamaha booth, and there's a sort of montage edition which allows you to sample via the montage and then export samples as montage. I'm going to come to you, Dave, because you were just talking about doing lots of sampling. I'm guessing Sample Robot might be something that you don't use. It's not something you use for the Tron stuff, but is it something you've come across? Because I mean, you must have like looked at all the various tools as you were working your way through the sample libraries of various things.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've used Keymap, Redmatica's Keymap forever, which was kind of, I don't know when it was discontinued. Basically, they got kind
Apple
of
bought
acquired by
yeah.
Apple. Yeah, and Andrea was an amazing individual. I mean, he was constantly updating it and stuff. Anyway, I use that a lot. In fact, it's one reason, we were talking about it earlier, it's one reason why on my Mac Pro, I'm still on El Kurdistan or Capitan or whatever it's called. Because I think Sierra would use it, but high Sierra, you couldn't use it anymore. And for me, it's such a key piece of kit that I couldn't kind of be without it. So actually, this is kind of really interesting because it may be my opportunity to kind of move into the 21st century a bit in terms of operating systems, and still have access to stuff that I need. Is there I need to work out whether there's a demo of this, because I'd really like to download it and check it out and see kind of what the workflow is, because I'm so used to the key map thing. I mean, there's an element of key map in main stage, but it's not as comprehensive as the individual modules, because you had sample. What was that other one? There were like 3 modules that you got as part of the Red Matica theme, and key map was a kind of auto looping stuff, which was brilliant. There were loads of different modes, and generally you could get in there, and even with really complex modulated sounds, there was always a point, not necessarily on an auto loop, but you could generally kind of scan the waveform, listen to where the modulation was, and find the kind of loop point from that.
The workflow on it was
workflow's brilliant.
The workflow on.
So very interested in this actually.
Yeah, I think it's about €249 if you're going from like 0 and various different iterations before that. But I think the thing is, I mean, I love the idea of, because I guess you could use it with a MIDI to CV as well. So you could sample a scaled analog sound or whatever. And there's a really interesting, well, I don't know how interesting it is, but it says, for instance, if you want to do 88 keys at 10 seconds, 88 times 10, so maybe 10 sample velocity switch layers, it would take you 4 hours and 53 minutes. Or if you went it by 30 layers, then or 30 seconds, and you're finding the loop point in each one as well. You're talking about 7 hours, whereas this thing, you kind of press the button and go away, and by all accounts it's actually quite good. And I really like the idea of computers doing things for me. I don't know what it's pretty specialized, isn't it?
I got mixed up. It's software. It's not an actual robot that plays your keyboard.
No, though that would be pretty cool.
Oh, I'm not interested in it anymore.
Bit more expensive, maybe.
Yeah, I know. No, I mean, it looks brilliant, doesn't it? I mean, I'm really interested in big, massive church organs. I've talked about them before, cathedral organs, and I mean, obviously, that they would still need to be played, but you could just put a whole load of samples in that you play in yourself, I suppose. And
I'll tell you what it's got. It's got like a tone and a countdown, so you can just kind of go. It goes, okay, this one, it goes beep, 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 and you go, and then it stops, and then you get the next one, and it'll cue you up, so it'll effectively automatically break things up. So it's kind of clever stuff.
Yeah, really good, really good. Gosh, wow. Yeah, I mean, like, that makes really big projects so much more bearable, doesn't it? Cool, yeah. Santa Stash, I've talked about it before in Paris. The organ in there is just incredible. It didn't sound, well, I mean, it could sound like an organ, but the range of sounds it was coming from was amazing. So I was really wanting to sample it, do it properly. So this would be the way to do it, for sure. I love that, and that sounds really cool. I mean, I've been sampling a lot this week on the Octatrack, the Electron Octatrack. In fact, that's the exact opposite process, really. Very, very manual, very kind of fiddly twiddly, but I've been enjoying it. There's something actually quite meditative about it as well. So
old school.
I mean, that's one of the joys of hardware, though. Actually. Just sort of setting up sort of sample slices. I don't know. Sometimes just interacting with a machine, not a mouse and keyboard, just twiddling the knob. Yeah, I've been enjoying that.
Well, perhaps if you were doing 88 keys at sort of 3 velocity layers per, it might not feel quite so. And looping it all might be, but it looks like it looks like a pretty useful thing, and something that you may well use. Sorry, yeah.
Thing is, you've still got to manually check it anyway. Because sometimes it's not. Here's a secret. When we did VSM, we didn't have key map or any auto looping stuff. We used a thing called DSP Quattro, and there was not even any crossfading in it. And we did 49 notes of every sound. 49 keys of every sound, and Chris took half of it and I took the other half, and we went through every single one and manually found the loop point, and then we swapped over and I checked his and he checked mine.
0 crossings on everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a headache. That's what did my ears in, actually.
But yeah,
I
but
was
I
doing
mean,
it in a swimming pool. I used to take my daughter swimming, and I'd have it on the laptop, and you got that gnarly sawtooth going through your head kind of constantly. And then I'd take the headphones off, and the acoustics in the pool environment, it was pretty trippy, and I thought it was funny. And then I think my brain had eventually, after however many sounds we've done, had just had enough, and that's when the permanent tinnitus kind of set in.
yeah,
that
well,
was
watch
fun.
out.
So, yes, any automation process is
I had a
good.
similar thing actually when we were looping those sounds. I had a prolapse disc and I went in to have a scan on my back, and the machine makes the most amazing noise. It has these weird harmonics, and the girl said, would you like to have headphones on to block out the sound of the machine because it makes this odd noise? And I came out grinning from ear to ear because I'd been listening to the waveform cycling through the machine.
Yeah, that's very niche, isn't it? It's like those repetitive
Yeah.
tasks. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember working for a gardener and having to weed like all day, and I'd just dream about little white roots in earth every time I closed my eyes, and I'd be, or times, I don't know if you've ever done that where you've just played an exception. Boggle is a really good one, or Tetris. You used to do these massive sessions on Tetris, and then you'd sort of walk home at night and sort of think, oh, if that car turned up a bit and we could shift that into that car parking space, and then that could fit on top, and you start to apply all these rules that your macro processes to real life, which is kind of totally inappropriate. But I guess it's the nature of human pattern matching. I don't know. That's kind of
Same thing happens physically. So
really,
I've raced my bike up until 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes go to bed and I wake up thinking my legs are going round.
well, like a dog
You
dreaming
actually-
when their legs go. Yeah.
Just like that.
Well,
very odd.
Anyway, Sample Robot Pro 6 available now. I think it's been available for a little bit long time. And you go to samplerobot.com, which is right there. There isn't actually. I was looking for videos, and the only video I could find was the one that we shot at Superbooth. So they definitely need to up their content game and get a little bit of online stuff. Well, so that podcasts who specialise in music technology, of which I can think of 2, can get their content. Well, there's more than 2, obviously. 5 maybe. Okay, right. What was it? And it hasn't even got a list of what formats you can export to, which is kind of, I guess it must do things like EXS24. Oh, that's what I was going to mention. The one thing that I think would be useful, like you were saying, Gaz, is really useful for taking a band to a live scenario where you've got particular keyboard sound. You don't want to take that keyboard out. You get the sound and you sample it, and then you've got it as a thing, right?
Yeah. Someone in the chat room has just sort of drawn my attention to a program called Octachainer, though, which is essentially a little bit like Sample Robot, but specifically for the Octatrack. Not really like Sample, but a sample manager that you can do all your slicing on that. So thank you for that.
Okay.
I will investigate that. So doing lots and lots of sampling at the moment.
Oh, no, okay. Well, we'll check that out. Thank you very much for that tip. Right, so let's do the. I had to make this special video up for our friends at Isotope, so I'll play this now because we can do the competition. I forgot to announce the winner last week, and I had to do it right at the end of the show, which some of you may miss. Anyway, let's just have a little word. This is Isotope RX7,
RX
just out.
to be the industry standard
I'll
and
let
leader
our
in
friend
audio
explain.
repair for music and post-production. And with RX7, we've introduced groundbreaking new ways to quickly and easily fix and manipulate audio. Take the game-changing Repair Assistant, an intelligent helper that can detect noise, clipping, clicks, hum, and more. Also new in RX7 is Music Rebalance, a powerful source separation tool. Drums too loud? Vocals not loud enough? Let's fix that. You can also create instrumental versions of songs by removing the vocal elements. You can now alter the pitch without affecting the timing of your audio, and conversely, alter the time without affecting the pitch with the new variable time and variable pitch modules. Using the new dialogue contour, you can improve the performance of a line or even create a new performance by altering the pitch contour of the dialogue, therefore adjusting the intonation of the speaker, and introducing Dialogue Dereverb, a module powered by machine learning to reduce the presence of reverberations around dialogue. RX7, a new frontier in audio repair.
Now, I had to make that ad a little bit. I mean, I cut that ad down loads without. I took all the audio examples out because there is so much good stuff in there. So if you want to check it out, you go over to isotope.com/RX and they will give you a demo that you can download. I think it's a 10-day demo is all their stuff. Last week we were pimping the prize of Vocal Synth, which again is another Isotope plugin. There's a vocal processing plugin, and we have a winner from that. That was somebody called @Eluherlu. That's a really hard one to pronounce. It's ELUHERLU @Elherlu. You have won a copy of Vocal Synth. If you want to get in touch, that's great. And if you want to win this week, what we're looking for the RX7 competition is the hashtag FixAnyMix and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. That's the hashtag FixAnyMix to RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. Once again, we thank them for providing the prize for this week's show. Much appreciated. Okay, so did we see this one? I didn't find. This is one of the things I haven't prepared yet because, as I said, there was the issue with so much. Here we go. If I load this page, it will show up. Yeah, Spotify have announced they're trialing a limited sort of beta of independent uploads to the Spotify platform. Up until now, you have to be a label or a digital aggregator to be able to do this. So this is kind of really encroaching onto the territory of SoundCloud-ish, because it's not quite about the embedding and the sharing of audio in some ways. It's more just allows it to get onto the platform. And as we know, the platform Spotify playlisting is very powerful in terms of promoting your stuff. We also know that you make next to nothing unless you're a billionaire streamer out of that stuff. But it's an interesting move, and they're going to be splitting the royalties, I think 50-50 and whatnot. I'll come to you guys first, because I know that we're always looking for the ultimate. I mean, we do show these things once in a while, don't we? I mean, there was that Swan Audio sharing thing. SoundCloud is almost great, but not quite. We sort of need an equivalent of YouTube, because YouTube generates revenue for the contributors as well. Something along those lines that actually works and does work, because YouTube works, but it's audio, but not for just audio, although people do just upload audio.
Well, I think that's a very good point. And it's interesting, isn't it, that YouTube have just launched its kind of music service, where you can listen to YouTube content, just the audio. So it's like they're both crossing over. So I'm fairly sure that this is in some way a reaction to maybe YouTube's kind of encroaching into their territory, perhaps. With the point that you said, the idea that user created content is incredibly popular, which, I mean, YouTube, you look at how popular that is.
Well, lots of people just use it to DJ with, don't they? They don't while looking at the video, but they just queue up, do track. It's like crate digging and just go, let's play this. But it's a massive bandwidth hog. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely a battle for something going on between, Spotify. I mean, when they started off, it was a Swedish company, wasn't it? And seemingly quite a small company, but they're like huge players now internationally.
Okay, there's a stat for you. 83 million subscribers, paying subscribers. That's a lot, isn't it?
So that's an interesting thing, isn't it? How much is it a month? It's about $10 a month, is it? Spotify?
Somewhere between. I think there was a $5 and a $10 one. Yeah, that depends which way you go, but yeah.
So if you think about that, then that's what's 800 odd million a month coming into the music business through, takes Spotify's cut out of that, but talking big bucks there. So
664 million at $8.
Right.
6 8's 48.
Okay.
Crikey. A month. So how come nobody makes any bloody money out of it? I don't get it. How is that even possible? Anyway, that's probably by the by. But I mean, the thing that Spotify. Go, Chris. Sorry.
They probably don't pay any tax either.
Well, that's possible. But I mean, one thing Spotify is good for is discovery, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, it can throw things at you, and people curate playlists, and that's the power of it, and also just the reach. I mean, is astonishing, and I suppose it is the. I mean, if Spotify opened it up so you could easily embed widgets and stuff, because it is a bit complicated. They kind of closed it down, so I mean, you can do it, but it's not as friendly as, say, SoundCloud or YouTube or that sort of thing. I know. How do you feel about this, guys? I mean, you know, you deal with a lot of artists. I mean, but for indie stuff, I mean, I guess, would it work for sales? I mean, I use Bandcamp, which is much easier, and it's just that nobody takes a cut apart from them, and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I like Bandcamp. I don't. I refused. In fact, I think you were the same. We kind of refused to do any streaming stuff for years, and I did notice. There was an article probably about a year ago, and it was the average wage of a Spotify employee was well over $100,000. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. So there's still money in music, but it strikes me that a load of people who are doing it aren't making it, and other people who are just taking it are making it. And so to me, the balance was all completely skewed, not in favour of musicians. So I refused to get involved in it for years. And then I bought some Sonos speakers. And as part of that, they were offering a 3-month or 6-month service to Deezer, which is an equivalent. And I resisted that for about as long as possible. And then I thought, you know what, I should try it because it is really good for research. And then I looked into it, and it appears that they were actually paying probably the best royalties, I think. It certainly was then. And that's it. I've kind of stuck with it ever since. And you know, we'll be going through doing stuff here, and it'll be like, oh, this sounds like, and we can very quickly call up, you know, just dial into Deezer and call up the original track and go, oh yeah, okay, it needs tweaking to refine it a little bit. But for research, it's brilliant. But it's still well, there's two things that still nag at me. First of all, the royalties are not correct, in my opinion. And secondly, it does gnaw at me that I don't own this music. And I liked owning music that I bought, and we bought tons. I mean, we were constantly kind of comparing CDs and stuff, and I just bought this and bought that for years. But now I don't do that. I mean, honestly, on average, I'd spend £100 a month on CDs. But now that just doesn't happen. Now it's my 10 quid to Deezer, and that's it. And I kind of almost feel slightly ashamed about it, actually.
Well, I suppose, I mean, that I didn't spend that much. So, I mean, it was the other way around for me. But people are saying in the chat room that actually Facebook own quite a large chunk of Spotify. I don't know how much, that hasn't been disclosed, but they are share owners in it, I suppose. So, whatever that means.
Mm-hmm. So when you
don't know.
When you buy music, you invest into that music, though, don't you? You actually, you know, if you spend $10 or whatever on something, you are not only are you're making an investment into that music, and then you're going to want to get that investment back by listening to it lots and cherishing it, and it being something that's that you feel some claim of ownership of that music. And the streaming, my first stint of streaming was with my Logitech Squeezebox system, and I used Napster for a number of years. And then I decided, when I gave up that, I thought about the albums that I'd listened to during that period of time, maybe sort of like 4 years or something, whatever it was. And it felt like just a fleeting, like a transitory relationship. It really didn't feel, it's sort of, it's a peculiar thing. I mean, without getting into materialistic sort of purposes, I think just the owning of music just makes it that much more personal. And
Well, okay? I mean, but here's the thing: did we ever own the music? Surely we only owned the CD or the vinyl it was imprinted on. We didn't actually own the actual music when we buy it. We own the physical object of the CD cover or whatever it is. And I suppose that's the thing, because you look over on your shelf and you go, "Oh yeah, I haven't listened to that for a while," and you've got that trigger. Whereas whether you're just presented with all that choice all at once, it's very hard to know what maybe you want to listen to. So it is a different relationship. But I'm not
royalties,
sure.
Royalties were always different.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Royalties were very different between physical copies and streaming. I think that's one of the reasons why I like Bandcamp. Is that first of all, independent artists can put their stuff up on there and they can determine. And for me, this is all about artist choice, which seems to have been negated and removed with the big companies that are basically just there to kind of, they're waiting for the big IPO so all the shareholders can check out with their gazillions and screw everybody else, if I'm being really blunt. But what I like about Bandcamp is artist decides, do I want to give it away? What price do I want to charge, if I want to charge anything? And that way I think through that you do develop a relationship with the artists. And there's some artists that I'll go to the nth degree to support. And I kind of feel that's being taken away in terms of Spotify. But then again, I am a grumpy old
Well, no,
man.
it's interesting you mentioned that, because remember, Radiohead were amongst the first artists to kind of release stuff digitally and then say pay what you like. But because they're so massive, I mean, loads of people downloaded it for free, but a lot of people chose to support, and they still made a couple of million, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know the economics of it, but so I think that's not a bad idea. Because the other thing that came up in the chat room was, once you stop paying for that, you say I don't want to subscribe anymore, then you no longer have access to that music. So, Chris, you wanted to come.
There's a counter side to the argument that I agree with, that Dave says, that when customers subscribe to a particular service, they're subscribing every month. And it may well be that people who didn't purchase music before are spending a lot more on the music that they're purchasing now than they ever did before. I think where the imbalance is in the way that the royalties are paid. So there might be more money being generated through the market itself, but the proportion of that profit going back to the artists is the thing that needs to be addressed. So there are positives about a subscription model in that it can generate a greater sum total of money for the, or it's generating that kind of
I suppose
a sum of money that might not necessarily have been there before.
Well, Netflix quite clearly works, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Netflix is a similar thing. You pay money to them, but they invest enormous amounts of money in programming. They've spent, they're spending, what is it? I heard some statistics the other day. This is one of the problems that, like in the UK, the BBC are up against, where they're up against companies like Amazon and Netflix, who are prepared to spend like $1 billion on something, whereas the BBC just cannot do that. So they can't do those big budget things because they don't have the mandate, and they've got all these other things that but people support that. I suppose the difficulty is with Spotify is, if you've got 1 million tracks on Spotify and everybody's paying $10, the way that it's split, it's in the same way that they do in the UK. You get these sort of payments for PRS and PPL for stuff that's played in cafes and restaurants and background music kind of things. But the people who get the lion's share of those are the big musical brands. So your Paul McCartneys, your Beyoncés, those kind of people get the worthwhile chunks, and the rest is spread out amongst so many other tiny little kind of slices that it's difficult. It's difficult. It seems difficult to be able to handle that. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good for discovery. Maybe not.
Does anyone know whether these companies are investing in artists? I have no idea.
Well, that would be a good question. Do they? Yeah, in the same way that Netflix do.
Or the record companies used to. I know there's all sorts of arguments about the model being outdated and what have you, this sort of 70s and 80s model. But if they were investing back in the art form, it might be a way of redressing that balance somehow.
Yeah, and promoting.
Because that's actually one thing that kind of kept. That's what I know from talking. That's what kind of made me really passionate about buying stuff, because actually what you're doing is you're supporting the whole eco-structure that we kind of all belong to.
And it was also often the case that the first 2 or 3 albums of artists were not successful, but they honed their craft making those albums, and then they paid back their loans through the successful album they had in.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, as we know, the record industry of old had its issues with kind of, inequity and what have you. But yeah, in some ways, it seems fairer, the Bandcamp model, because you're dealing directly. I mean, you get sub-labels and people use it but it feels like a much more direct relationship with the artist.
Yeah, certainly the Bandcamp thing is, but the Spotify's and Deezers and what have you, it'd be interesting to know whether they did actually reinvest in the art form.
I think they should. Spotify label, guys.
Little detail about Bandcamp that I only learned recently, though, was if you do sell merchandise through Bandcamp, be that vinyl or T-shirts or anything really, we did fuzzy felt at our Asteroid Deluxe launch. You can. The way it works is it comes off future digital. The royalty comes off the future digital earnings, so it's quite interesting. So actually, when you sell something, you'll get the full amount, but there'll be like a percentage that will be deducted from future digital earnings. It's just quite an interesting way of as a business model, that is.
Right.
So, just thought I'd mention that.
Well, anyway, it's trialing at the moment. They haven't sort of said when it's going to be going live, and it's very much designed to, the idea is you would upload it kind of several days or a week before your release is going to happen, where it has to be checked to see, if there's any copyright infringements and if it's duplication of something else that's already up there that they're already. So, there's a process. It's not like SoundCloud where you just go, hey, I've done this great mix, bang, bing, stick it on a page, I'm there, share it, gone. You can't. It's not that immediate thing, which, one thing that, as we all kind of love, is you do like to kind of just
what
go,
is
no.
What's the story with SoundCloud now then?
I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of demise of SoundCloud stories, but I mean, I think they're still going on. I just don't know quite what their model is or anything. So it is different. Okay, right, well, let's have a look at this. Let's get some synth action on the go. This is the teaser for a new synth, which is a Vector synth by the looks of it. It's got a rather attractive screen on it. Absolutely no other information available. VectorSynth.com. It's got left and right outputs on Coreridge jack by the looks of things. But it seems to have been very exciting. I mean, it's one of the highest outbound links on our site to VectorSynth.com. That looks pretty. There we go. We're always banging on about how we need new stuff. I mean, Vector synths aren't that new. When was the first Prophet VS? Was that the first Vector synth? Have you got one?
We did.
We did.
Oh, I was going to say, can you switch it on and play? Because then we can kind of like, okay, yeah, we got one of those. Here's what it sounds like.
We sold it.
Give it away or sell it? We sold it.
No, we got, I was doing that probate sale thing, or, I was valuing all the synths for probate, which we ended up just buying them all. And the guy was a complete sequential nutcase. And the VS came as part of that. And we kind of played with it a few times and went, meh. And somebody contacted us and said, have you got a VS? Yep, immaculate condition. So he came down and bought it, and he took that and a tom with him. But yeah, no, Chris has got way more to do with vector synthesis than I ever had.
Okay.
So
right,
I'd be really interested in the structure of this, the sound sources, what they're going to use for the sound generation, whether they're going to mix analog and digital, whether it's going to be digital or I'd imagine all the controls digital, but whether they're going to use analog filters. The VS used analog filters, but had horrid digitizing or anti-aliasing.
Yeah, all I remember are kind of like fizzy bells.
Yeah, horrid, really horrible.
That's a show title.
Everything
right
that was horrible.
Fizzy bells.
Fizzy bells.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll put that in.
Be really cool. It'd be really interesting to know what the structure of it is. Really.
Exactly. I mean, those demo sounded analog-ish, but it's a small box, so it's hard to tell how much they could fit in, I suppose.
There were components of it that sounded very digital as well. There were lots of there were some bell sounds in there as well. But the demo sounded as it had a range of sources.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Do you think so? I mean, well, we don't know anything more about it, but I mean, I guess it's a good thing. More synths is not necessarily a bad thing, although it's much harder to stand out now. I mean, you know, because all those kind of like golden targets, you know, the affordable polysynths, the analog monster, you know, they've all been sort of struck, haven't they? They've all been hit, and now it's just sort of there's this sort of price point issue which seems to happen all the time. So it's going to be an interesting concept. I mean, it looks like it shouldn't be too expensive because of its size. I mean, you couldn't charge €2,000 for a box that looks about the size of as it does. So I mean, it maybe will be affordable. We don't know how many voices or anything. I know, Gaz, have you got any fond memories of VS synthesis? Or I mean, I'm not quite sure what it is. Is it travelling along a wavetable or something? Is that how vector works? I don't even know what it means. I should probably look it up.
I thought it was. It isn't. It's the ability. Just like morphing for. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, it's that simple. It's the ability to morph between the 4 sound source or sound generators.
Yeah.
Seems to be based on the joystick. Here we go. There's the Wikipedia page. That's the vector plane.
Yeah, so I think the Korg Oasis, the Wave Station, they had that sort of capability.
Right, got you. I suppose what would be interesting with that is because if you have morphing waveforms or crossfade, you know, like the Sub 37 is continually variable. In fact, the IK Multimedia Uno synth I just reviewed, which is Eric Norlander's kind of creation, that wave sweeping sounds pretty good. So if you had a multiple oscillators in analog, it could be quite an interesting proposition as well, if they sound good while they're morphing, because it always sounds like crossfading to me, no matter what you try and describe it as.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting with the Wave Station, I think, to a degree, because you had the wavetable. You could scroll through the wavetables. So you could, but with just pure analog stuff, I mean, I like the idea of the combination with analog and digital and perhaps samples and stuff like that. And then you kind of morph in between the two, crossfade in between.
I think that's the key to it being different, is if the 4 sound sources are perhaps a couple of analog oscillators, a granular generator, and then maybe something digital, then you get lots of tonal differences between the 4. That might make it quite cool.
Yeah, that would. I mean, granular would be very suited to vector synthesis, I guess, because scanning across waveforms rather than a wavetable. I think that could work pretty good. So we'll have to wait and see. I'm guessing. I don't know where. There's absolutely no news. You could just sign up. Let me see if I can find it. It's basically vectorsynth.com. It just says vectorsynth.com. Oops, I don't spell synth like that.
I don't suppose you know who's behind it.
I don't. You know what though? I do remember Glenn Darcy leaving Akai and going off to do something else synthy, and having a conversation with him many months ago. I wonder. I'm this is a complete guess. I mean, honestly, there's no truth or there's nothing apart from pure speculation in that. But I wonder if that might be something that. Here we go. You can see the picture of it. It doesn't really show up so well on the stream there. It needs to be brighter. I don't think I can do anything about that. Let me see. Can I brighten that up so we might be able to? Let's see if I can find the input channel and update the. Oh, there we go. I wonder if I can adjust the.
I can't.
Color adjust.
I can't see a joystick on there, but it looks like there's maybe a touch screen. Is that how you do the vector?
Oh, there we go. Look.
The morphing.
How's that? Oh, look at that. I'm doing some live photo manipulation so you can see what's there. So it looks like the vectors are maybe suborbit and orbit. So it's sort of discrete vectors as well. That's kind of interesting. I can't quite make that out. Vibrato, yeah. So anyway, but the answer to your question, Chris, is no, I have no idea who's behind it. I could not tell you that any words about it. But it's a new synth, so that might be good. Right, let's... Sorry. Oh. Go, Gaz.
I was just going to say, form factor, it makes me think a little bit of the Tasty Chips GR1 in the, it's a digital synth. That's specifically with a large screen and some dedicated controls on there. And that's got a lovely form factor, really, really enjoyable synth to use. So it is. Well, I mean, and that isn't particularly cheap. The GR1, I think that's about 850 euros. I think.
Yeah, this looks a little bit more substantial.
It is more substantial for sure. It is more just this kind of desktop size with a big screen on there as well. There's not been many things in that format. The GR1 being an exception, I suppose. Yeah, it looks cool though.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get on to something else. This is another interesting topic. I touched on that. In fact, I can't believe I was talking to Richard Devine, and he announced the MoDX. I get that right. It's yet another synth you've got to pronounce correctly. God, it's just the list adds up. I'll never be able to keep up. So it's going to be like speaking a different language pretty soon. It's the he announced on the day of the MoDX launch that he'd been commissioned to do a load of sounds for the new Jaguar range of cars. And there's an article here on CDM Link, Peter Kern's site, where it sort of goes into all of that stuff. I wonder if I could play the. So he was sort of making the engine sounds. That sounds quite exciting. What's this one? Oh, that's a pretty short track. I guess it's not going to sell them any Jaguar cars. I mean, would you buy a car based on the way it sounded? I think we've talked about this before, because with electric cars, there's these challenges that have to be met, because obviously they're silent effectively apart from the rolling sound. So you have to have an external sound to warn people you're coming, which, if you've got a Jag, you're probably going to want it to be a fairly throaty rumble to make people kind of like turn around and go, ooh, look at that. But so Richard Devine has done the entire sound design for it, which I imagine was very quite an involved job, and I think he said it was very challenging. And the other part of it was he used a lot of FM, because he's an FM nut. I don't know. Have you ever do you ever get asked to do sound design stuff like this? I mean, it's a very niche kind of job, isn't it? Description. I mean, Richard Devine is pretty much Mr. Sound Design for that sort of stuff. I think he does movies as well, but a lot of it is for application sound design, so and for hardware stuff.
He could have saved himself a load of work by coming over here, just sampling a Jaguar.
I quite like the idea of subverting this, having some kind of misfiring two-stroke.
A clown car.
Sports car. Yeah, exactly. Driving along the road. I mean, if I got in a car and it made that sound, hey,
this is not.
So we do have access to an old E-Type, and it is. Well, Nick's been out in it, and it is the most amazing sounding car. It makes the goosebumps on my arm stand up. It's not mine, I hasten to add. But if I got in a car and fired it up and it sounded like that, I would just want to drive it as fast as possible, because you immerse yourself in that noise. Now, the thing with the E-Type is it's not a car. Of course, you can drive it fast, but it's not a car that you should really drive fast. It's just the experience of driving a vehicle of that magnificence, and with that sound. And when you put it in the corners at the right speed and everything, it just sounds beautiful. But if I was in a car that sounded like a jet, I would just be caning it everywhere.
I thought it sounded like Batman's car from the 60s. The car, they're kind of.
Yeah, you see
I know what you mean.
Thing to do.
I mean, that's not to. I'm sure Richard's done an amazing job. That's the first thing to say. But there's a sort of comedy element. I think just put a bloody V8 in it.
Well, I guess you can't. I mean, it's a future. It's obviously more modern technology. But I think we talked about this once before. The idea of, the same way that you can modify the voice of your sat nav or of your what was the other thing that you can get sort of sound. Changing your sounds, and the idea of having multiple sounds or Easter eggs in there, where if you change down too quickly, there's a really, even though it hasn't got a gearbox like that, it sort of goes. It sounds like a Morris Minor being stuck in the wrong gear,
Yeah. It's a bit like, and when you drive, if you drive a reasonably high performance car, and you're listening to certain types of music, if I'm listening to some real hardcore 150 BPM techno or 160 BPM drum and bass, I'm going to drive it like an idiot. Whereas if I'm listening to some ambient stuff, so I think this is the really interesting part of this is not necessarily what Richard's done, which we all know everything he does is really good. It's how the driver interacts with that sound, whether they do drive like a lunatic because it sounds like a spacecraft and I'm just going to go really fast, or whether there should be some kind of tone it down noise.
That's an interesting idea. You've got quite an advanced you've got an advanced technological car. I mean, in terms of what it does, Gaz. I mean, it's a hybrid thing, and it's got presumably tons of computer stuff. Does it make any special noises?
No.
Because when you're in hybrid mode, does it make an engine noise?
No, mine's not hybrid, Nick.
Oh, is it not? Oh, sorry. I do beg your pardon.
Yeah, that's all right. But I mean, I remember we talked about this before, just the sounds that they have to emit on the outside in order to warn people of them driving. It was just, and I can't remember if we said this or not, but it's something I've always thought, that if the sound that they make, if they drive past another one that's the same make, they harmonise. And then if they drive past a rock, they create a sort of tritone or something, just to sort of make the other car sound worse.
Yeah. You get that Doppler effect when they go past.
Phase cancellation. In the
Oh,
middle.
yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's an interesting idea.
That'd be really cool. I'll tell you what I want this on. I want this on my electric bike.
That's an idea.
That's what I want this noise on. So, hi bike, if you're out there, hire Richard Devine, get him to put a noise on my Fat Six or whatever it's called.
Well, look, here's a thought. I mean, there's what they should do is they should release a Jaguar app that interacts with your accelerometer in your phone. You put it on the dashboard, you Bluetooth it into your hi-fi, and then when you're driving your car, your hi-fi then sounds like what it would be like to drive one of these new Jags. So you're then kind of like, oh yeah, maybe I want to get one of those. And because of the acceleration and the deceleration, you can have it actually kind of making those sounds. And if you're going really fast, although there could be some, there's obviously lots of room for accidents.
Underworld did that with a Golf, didn't they? They did a whole GTI app, didn't they, Cass? Yeah.
Yeah.
They did the whole Golf GTI app, and that used the accelerometers and stuff, didn't it? For the cornering and acceleration and whatnot. There'll be a video on it.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to know anything about that at the time, but it sounded like a good laugh because they were ragging it round a track, testing out.
This is it. Yeah, driving.
There you go.
GTI and Underworld play the road. Driving music reinvented. Okay. Oh, let's have a look at that. This is video removed. That's not so good. Maybe it was a Volkswagen diesel. Bada bing.
Yeah, it was the emissions.
Yeah.
It's been recalled.
Let's see if this one works. Oh, there we go. We got something here. So camera, GPS. Sounds like a 1960s spaceship, doesn't it? Wow. There's quite a lot of low end in there that you probably aren't getting over YouTube via laptop speakers.
Sound like the inside of a scanner.
All right, so it starts to play music as well. Oh, that's interesting. So the whole thing, so it reacts. I mean, I think, well, they're obviously way ahead of their time, as we say. But yeah, I mean, he had to make things like, the indicator lights, the bing bong when you've left your light on, when all of that stuff. I mean, there must be a massive list of sounds, and I imagine, he must be very experienced at this sort of thing, because I know he's worked with big brands like this before. But can you imagine the meetings where you have to go in and you've got everybody from the managing director down to the chief engineer throwing their oar in and modifying? It's not like just working with the director. I'd be working with kind of absolutely everybody who had an opinion on it, because they all want it to be, they've probably got in their mind's eye or their mind's ear, what they want it to sound like. That would just be, what a nightmare.
Yeah, marketing men.
I was just going to say that word. Marketing.
Normally what happens is everything runs brilliant, and then it's like the marketing men kind of come in and kind of go, no, it needs to be like this. And you're just like,
it needs to be bluer.
Yeah.
You know what I think? I want to know. I bet you there was one meeting where somebody said, I want it to have a bit more, because it's a Jaguar, right? Can it sound a bit more like a wild animal?
It'd be brilliant. I love the idea of it sitting at traffic lights, just purring like a proper.
Oh, like a big
growling
cat.
away. Yeah,
Well,
and on my bike, so I need a bell on my bike because obviously I do ride it rather fast and stuff. And Louise was on about I should get a klaxon, which is a little bit overkill and it's a bit tossy, really. And I just thought the lamest, most slightly effete bicycle bell would be perfect as you go. And
In one of those horns.
I think.
yeah, and that's what this Jag needs.
Oh yeah, or one of those party whistles with a little feather on the end. Which always, whenever I think of those, I always think about Courtney Pine and his soprano sax, which is very unfair of me, but I can't help it. It's just like a visual. Because his tone is not my favourite, shall we say. Anyway.
His whole career reduced to a little party gimmick.
Well, that's not... It's very hard to make a soprano sax sound nice, because they're squeaky by their very nature. So if you overdo it, it's kind of, you're asking for trouble as far as, at least where I'm concerned. It'll be just put a feather on the end of it and cover it in some cheap gift wrap. Yeah. I'm getting pretty tangential here. But that's probably it. Does anyone want to talk about this? Does this have any, does the PreSonus Atom, did I actually get it in the system? I don't know if I did. Let's have a look. Is that it? No, that's not it. Maybe it's that. Oh yeah, this. Did you see this? Just very quickly.
It's pretty cool.
It's a new controller from PreSonus, which is different. They haven't done any MIDI controllers, as far as I can tell, like ever. So yeah, it's obviously works in conjunction with apps and whatnot. It's hard to tell whether this is a good idea or just a bit like things that have gone behind. I mean, it's a small... I like the colouring of the buttons. We got it here. Oh, I think I've still got my my colour correction on this guy. Maybe I should check that. Oh dear, I don't think I've got that quite right. That looks a bit better. Yeah, that looks like it looks here. Anyway, maybe that's right. So there it is. I mean, it's a MIDI controller.
Yeah. The thing about it specifically is if you're a Studio One user, version 4, I guess. I'm not sure. But I mean, the Impact XT, or the way that had developed in the latest version of Studio One, it's kind of brought it in line with a kind of Native Instruments machine kind of thing. It's very, very sophisticated, very deep. So it makes a lot of sense for them to market something that has a complete integration into the Studio One workflow, especially, as I mentioned, with that additional... well, it's not just Impact XT. There's another MIDI sort of like a 808 style sequencer thing in there as well that it sort of supports in with all dedicated, with the buttons all light up and all kind of work in cahoots with the software. Now I don't know how compromised it will be to work with things outside of the PreSonus world.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Yeah, I see what you mean, but that integration makes sense. Looks like it's about 125 quid. So 100, yeah. So I mean, maybe it is just designed to work specifically with the with Studio One. I mean, in the same way that some of their controllers that really tightly integrate as well, don't they? So
I think that tight integration makes it a really attractive choice. But again, with the caveat being you have to be a Studio One user.
Well, like these guys, the fader ports obviously integrate better.
Yeah. Because I've got like Steinberg things which are similar that integrate into Cubase, and the fact that all the buttons just work, it's really nice. It's a very nice time saver, and so I think this, with that in mind, looks like great, and it's a great price as well. So I think it's a bit of a no-brainer if you're a Studio One user, to be honest.
Yeah, I've just got. I'm going to pop this up on the screen if it's going to work. Hayes Anderson says, don't think there could be enough controllers out there, to be honest. We all have different hands on different workflows. But that's very true. I mean, you know, I mean, essentially that's what you've got there. I mean, obviously you've got the electronics behind all of those things, but each of those instruments have their own kind of specific way of interacting. I mean, I can't remember. Have you got any control surfaces in there for dealing with DAW or any of the other stuff?
No,
apart
I've got them.
from the Oddity, maybe.
Well, we've got Fat Boy. And obviously the Imp 2 controller. I've got a app for Logic, so I can control that from the other end of the room. Although that's a bit kind of flaky at times. No, it's interesting. And I was thinking about the whole, the Novation launchpad thing. I was thinking about that earlier. We've just done
the touch sensitive keyboards.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we've been. I've just done a load of sounds for this. I don't know whether I can lift it and go.
Oh yeah, I've noticed you've been getting peaky.
Yeah, it's incredibly versatile, very versatile synth. But I've kind of, So I'm just about to submit a load of those. In fact, Chris was over going, good, rubbish, good, average, same as the first one. So that was quite good. I'm just going to submit those and see what they think of those. But yeah, the Launchpad thing, I've seen a couple of guys mucking around on that and thought, could be tempted to join the 21st century on that.
Yeah,
front.
it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, as with any controller, I mean, there are and synth interfaces. I'm finding that with the Medusa now. You know, there's a certain, you know, I have to learn how to use it for the synth. But the thing is if the more niche the controller is for, and the more complicated it is to use, the less you're inclined to maybe learn all of that if you can't transfer those skills to other instruments or other workflows. So it's quite a difficult set of parameters to work with, I think.
Yeah, well, I think what Gert says is absolutely right.
Speaking of workflow, though, it may be worth just mentioning that Reason 10.2 has just come out, I think, today. And that's quite notable in that it's a lot of the features that it brings in 10.2 are kind of features that are not necessarily innovative. We've seen them in other software, but sort of brings Reason's sequencer a little bit more into the mainstream. One of the features that you can do now is you can group, multi-select mixer channels in, and then with a shift function, and then operate one, and it operates them all. Which again, we sort of maybe take that for granted in most other software.
All right.
Also, you can view multiple MIDI parts at the same time in the same editor. So again, things we've seen in other software, but really nice to see in Reason actually, because Reason sequencer I've always felt is it was always a bit too simplistic, but Reason's got loads of fantastic features. So with it gaining these workflow features, I think, definitely makes it worth a look if you are someone who has been teetering on the edge with Reason. I think it certainly makes it a little bit more, kind of more where it should be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Reason's one of those DAWs that seems to garner a lot of enthusiasm amongst it, evangelical behavior amongst its users. I mean, you choose to use it, and it's quite different from many others, so there's not much crossover.
Yeah.
Because you have that. I guess it's because there weren't VSTs for such a long time, and I guess they don't do VSTs, do they? They've got the rack stuff. I mean, you guys do the rack extensions.
They've got the VSTs now as well.
They've got VSTs as well now, but I guess that made it a closed ecosystem for a long time. So it's now they're kind of. So I guess that makes sense. Okay, well, 10.2 out today. I was just browsing all these nice animated GIFs that was showing all these kind of the things that it would do. So you can upload if you buy Reason now. So September 26th, that is in fact today. You're absolutely right, which is why it's not in the news, because I did the topics yesterday. There we go. Right, well, thank you very much. I'm sorry if I was slightly distracted. It's been one of those days where you get the is it still working? Has that problem I thought I'd solved just come back kind of scenario. So you chaps, what are you up to next then? You've just had the Mtron Pro banks come out. Anything else coming along? Look, they're looking at each other.
Yeah. Loads.
Shall we?
But it's a bit like that. I don't know whether you've seen that meme where it says, I shouldn't really say it, and I'm only joking. I'm semi-joking when I say it. That meme that says, when I die, I'm going to get my co-workers to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time. No, that's not true at all.
No, honestly,
no.
I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Chris, you look a bit uncomfortable with that with that statement.
No, he's on board. He's on board. No, it's yeah. No, there's a lot going on.
It might appear that we're doing the same things over and over, but we're not.
Yeah, there's a lot going on behind the
There's an
scenes.
awful lot.
The Novation thing made a really nice distraction for a while. That was kind of a chance to put your head somewhere else.
Yeah, actually, that is really important to us, is that occasionally we get distractions from other places, like Novation, when we did work with Isotope.
Yeah.
That was great fun. And
yeah, and the RX thing.
Good for our soul, really, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, I'm still kind of blown away at some of what RX does, particularly that whole music balancing thing, and the pitch algorithms are all very different. In fact, on the Vol 4 sounds, even though I was still working on RX5 or something, and in fact, the tapes were amazing. So when we got the original tapes through, there's this one. There's a couple of things that had never been released. The tapes had just sat on a shelf since about early 1970 or something, and it's a brilliant idea. It's just different intervals of the same kind of chords, but different inversions. And right at the beginning of the tape is this, and it's so brilliantly British. I mean, this isn't on the Vol 4 stuff. This is just when I was editing it. There is a conductor making a joke in English, in Latin, to the ensemble who are recording. I just thought, you can't get any more British than that, can you?
No, that's very BBC.
Yeah, it was amazing. And, crazy little things like there'd be little string chiffs kind of halfway through the note where obviously somebody else in the ensemble's kind of going, have I got the right note? I'm not quite sure. Oh, no, I haven't. Stop. And the ability just to go in and kind of get rid of those, just amazing. Awesome. So yes, that's my plug for RX7. So yeah, do the
they've certainly had them. Yeah, do the competition, which I'll just quickly post again. If you want to win RX7, we're looking for the hashtag #FixAnyMix and the hashtag RX7 to @Sonicstate and @Isotope Inc. So do check that out. Well, there was one thing I was also going to ask. Where plans for our event are moving along, and we wondered. I wanted to ask a question actually, because we're still in the embryonic stage, but we were thinking about doing something in the afternoon, starting about 3:30, and having some synth talks in the afternoon and having bands in the evening. Would that be something that any of our viewers would be interested in that sort of format, or would it rather be just the evening gig? Because it would be on a Saturday, I know that much, so that means it's not like you'd have to take time off work, unless of course you work on a Saturday. I was just putting it out there for a bit of discussion. You can mention that in the comments, and then we'll
hands-on things as well.
Yeah, it might help us shape.
Some hands-on things in the daytime as well would
be
cool as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Another part of it. Yeah.
So anyway, that I wanted to throw that out there and just see if anybody had any opinions on that, because it may help shape the shape, if that makes sense. Well, that's it. Thank you very much, Dave and Chris from GeForce Software.
Okay.
It's not got dark in the evenings now. Did you cycle home from the middle of the countryside on your bike? No. No. Too dodgy.
No.
Too old.
Well, yeah, okay, I get that one. But yeah, I've already asked you what you're up to next, and you say lots of stuff you can't tell us, but I hope you do have a lovely week, and thank you very much for joining us from your wonderful synth cave over there at GeForce HQ, or one of your many sites. You're getting a larger and larger, your campus is increasing.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, no, good fun.
You're more than welcome. And Gaz, also thank you for joining us. Are you back on your computer? That's weird. No. It looks absolutely fine. It sounds different as well. Maybe I cued your voice. But thanks for joining us.
I've been having revelations with the Roland AX Edge keytar that arrived yesterday.
Oh wow!
Oh my goodness! Do you know what? Strapping it really low right down Peter Hook style.
Rickenbacker style.
It's down there. That's where it is. And I found this other wicked thing is I can play the key edge like that, like a string. So it's down low.
Ah, it's like a bass.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think it's really good. I think it's got big spike on it as well, so you can. Someone's calling. It's got a big spike on it, so you can kind of, see off any kind of
ram it into stage event.
Yeah.
It did look quite sharp.
It's good.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to that because you're going to be reviewing that for us as well. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you, everybody. That was Sonic Talk, episode 551. We'll see you again next time. Don't forget, you can win your copy of RX7 or go and check it out at isotope.com/RX7. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Take it easy.